The bus rolled into the city just before dawn, and Sade pressed her forehead against the window as if the glass could teach her how to belong. Billboards flashed with faces wearing soft smiles and expensive lives. University of Lagos gates rose like a promise and a warning. She had one small box, two dresses and a hat already tired of being ordinary. On the hostel bed, she laid out her treasures, a pair of clean sneakers, a thrifted blazer that looks rich in dim light, and the strangest item of all, the plastic iPhone she bought from a roadside store. It looked perfect until you pressed the screen. It was just a shell with a shiny face and no soul. She told herself it was only for pictures, only for show, only for now. But as morning spread across campus and girls floated past with real phones and real perfume, Sade heard a sharp whisper inside. If they see the truth, they will not see you. So she took her first fake mirror selfie, posted it with glittery words, and waited for hearts to bloom on the screen. They did, and with every notification, the lie felt lighter than the truth. The first week was festival of first impressions. In class, Sade laughed at jokes before she understood them. In the cafeteria, she practiced the careful art of chewing slowly, talking softly, and acting like she belonged where the food tasted like money and time. Her roommates, Anita and Kemi, loved to scroll. They wore hair that moved like wind and carried small handbags that could buy rent. We are going to the welcome night at Platinum Lounge, Anita said. Bring your A game. Shade nodded and smiled, even though her A game lived in a thrift bag. On the lawn, a boy with round glasses sat under a jacaranda tree and read a thin book. His shirt was plain, his shoes were clean in a quiet way. He looked like a soft page in a loud magazine. When Sade passed him, he glanced up and smiled, small and true. She looked away. She had no space for quiet things. The city was a drum, and she wanted to dance. Sade learned the angles of pretending. In front of the library glass, she stood with a plastic phone, held it near her ear, and tilted her chin like a girl who didn't fear the bill for data. A girl named Bianca, famous on campus for beauty, followers, and golden laugh, walked over with two other girls. I love your phone case, Bianca said, eye glittering. You are new, right? Come sit with us. The air moved. Sade sat. The girls talked about parties, about a lecturer who never smiled, about a boy who drove a white car that purred. We are doing a content shoot on Saturday, Bianca said. You should come. We like your vibe. Sade nodded while her blood hummed. At night, in her bunk, she turned the plastic iPhone in her hand. Only for a little, she whispered. She borrowed Anita's dress for the lounge and promised to be careful. She imagined walking through the blue lights, holding a drink she wouldn't swallow, taking flashes that said expensive, and posting a caption that sounded like silk. Inside Platinum Lounge, the air smelled like sugar and smoke. Blue light stroked cheeks into perfection. Sade walked as if the floor owed her softness. The DJ fed the room beats like thunder and candy. Bianca waved her over. Babe, we need a quick boomerang. Airdrop the clips later, okay? Sade's smile froze and then learned how to move again. Sure, she said, and if the word did not scratch her throat, she positioned her plastic iPhone like a mirror and used Anita's real phone to capture everything. Sparkling drinks, a corner plant, a neon sign that says Live Loud. When Bianca leaned in and whispered, Airdrop, Sade swallowed. Battery low, she lied. I'll send tomorrow. A tall boy with warm eyes watched her a little longer than strangers usually do. He said nothing, but his gaze felt like a quiet hand on a loud door. Later, outside, the night air was cooler and kinder. On the curb, the boy with the plain shirt from the jacaranda tree stood beside a silver car that didn't pour its breath. You left this, he said, handing her the thin book he had been reading. You sat on it earlier, Sade blinked. It's not mine. He smiled. Keep it anyways. She looked at the title, A Short Guide to Long Peace. I am Henry, he added. Welcome to University of Lagos. She thanked him, heart unsure. Peace was not trending. Mid-semester came like a fast river. Group projects, lab reports, lectures that stretched across afternoons. Bianca's circle kept Sade close, and every day requires a new costume. She learned to tag the right people and stand in the right corners. She learned how to crop pictures so that the empty spaces stayed secret. With borrowed clothes, borrowed lipsticks, and the plastic iPhone turned carefully outward. She built a profile that sparkled, but lies asked for more lies. When someone asked where she lived, she shrugged and said, Victoria Island, my auntie's place. In truth, her auntie rented a small room near the bus terminal, painted lilac to keep the sadness away. When someone asked what she was studying, Sade lifted her chin and said, Media and culture, even though her real course was economics and sleeplessness. One afternoon in class, the lecturer announced a surprise presentation. Introduce a product and pitch it. Sade's group chose a luxury skincare brand they invented in 10 minutes. Everyone laughed, everyone sparkled, but when it was Sade's turn to speak, the words felt like coins that might slip. Henry sat 2 rows back, quiet, attentive. His presence didn't shine, it glowed. After class, he found her by the stairs. You did well, he said, but you look tired. She smiled the way she smiled the way people smile when they are falling apart. I am fine. He nodded, the kind of nod that doesn't argue. If you ever need a study buddy, I'm usually in the old reading room. She wanted to laugh. Study buddy? As if her life wasn't already homework she didn't understand. Saturday arrived with sun and the promise of exposure. Bianca planned a shoot at a rooftop cafe where the tea came with flower petals. Sade wore Anita's white blazer and Kemi's gold hoops. The plastic iPhone lay like a dare in her bag. They posed against glass and sky. A barrister made a latte with leaf on top, and Bianca filmed it like a small miracle. Okay, group shots, Bianca said. Phones up. Sade's stomach tightened. She raised the plastic iPhone with the practiced grace of someone holding a secret like a diamond. Airdrop me the BTS, Bianca chapped. Sade placed her phone down quickly, fake laughing. Battery, she said again. The word, now a crutch. A boy at the next table frowned at her phone. He reached out, curious, rude. Is that? He pressed the screen. It didn't wake. He pressed harder. Nothing. His eyebrows climbed, and so did voices. It's a toy, someone said, half joking, half hungry. A heat like river climbed Sade's neck. Bianca's eyes snapped to the table, then to Sade, then to the boy. The air turned into knife. Don't be silly, Bianca said as she laughed. Her phone is just dead. The boy shrugged and went back to his pastry. Sade breathed again, but the breath was thin. She excused herself and went to the bathroom, where the mirror didn't know how to lie to her. You can't do this forever, she Fawcett whispered. Watch me, she whispered back. Exam pushed everyone into the library, and the library pushed everyone into silence. Sade tried to be brave with numbers that resisted her. Henry's corner in the old reading room became a little island of slow time. He didn't talk much. He didn't try to fix her. He simply stayed. He simply stayed, shoulder to shoulder, on a bench where the wood had learned patience. He was the kind of rich that didn't need to announce itself. A driver sometimes waited for him in the evening, the car quiet and solid. He wore a watch that could pay for a semester, but it told the same time as every other watch. Once, he brought Sade a small pack of groundnuts and said, "You forgot lunch." When she looked at him, he held her gaze with a humble steadiness that made the room feel safe. Still, Sade stayed busy with Sparkle. She posted pictures of sunset windows and captured them with soft lies. When Bianca invited her to host a small on campus event for student creators, Sade said yes because yes is lighter than no. Well, do a phone raffle, Bianca said. Brand new iPhones, courtesy of our sponsor. The word iPhone made Sade's plastic one feel heavier. You will draw the winning ticket on stage, Bianca smiled. The night of the event arrived like a drum roll. The stage lights were pink and promising. Students filled the hall, phones held like little lanterns. Sade wore a black dress and used to belong. Sade wore a black dress that used to belong to Kemi and shoes that did not belong to her feet. She smiled, smiled, and smiled. The raffle box sat in front of her like a sleeping animal. Bianca, shining under the lights, whispered, "Let's do some airdrop networking now. Everyone turn on airdrop so we can share the sponsor's flyer." The word airdrop rolled across the audience like a wave. Sade's ribs tightened. Bianca turned to her with a grin. "Sade, open your airdrop and send it to me first, then to the others." The crowd watched two girls, two friends, two phones. Sade reached into her bag and felt the cold shell of the plastic iPhone. Her fingers trembled. She pulled it out. The front row leaned forward. One boy in a cap whispered, "No lock screen?" Bianca held out her phone, waiting for the name Sade's iPhone to appear on her screen. Nothing appeared. Sade pressed the dark plastic. Nothing woke. A cough rose from somewhere and then a small Creole laugh. Bianca's smile went sharp. "What's wrong?" she asked, lightly and loudly. Sade tried to speak, but her voice broke. A girl near the aisle stepped closer, peered, and then said it like a verdict. "It's fake." Silence fell, hot and heavy, then shattered under the noise of 100 small laughs. Someone fumed, someone whispered, "Plastic iPhone girl." Sade ran. The stage light followed her for 2 steps and then gave up. Outside, night wrapped her in a dark that smelled like wet dust. She found an empty bench and sank, shaking, while the hall behind her kept laughing. Her messages began to flood, notifications stacking like stones. "Babe, are you okay? OMG, Sade, seriously? Why lie? Plastic princess." Her aunt called too, but Sade let it ring. She had no script for this. She thought of home, of the tiny lilac room, of her mother's hands that scrubbed bowls to a clean shine even when life was dirty. She thought of the book Henry gave her, still unread in her drawer. She tried to swallow the night. It refuses to go down. Footsteps approached. She kept her eyes on the ground. "Sade," a quiet voice said. She didn't move. "I brought water," Henry added, setting a bottle beside her as if he were placing a small candle on a cold table. She wiped her face with her sleeves and finally looked up. He sat with her, not too close, not too far. "They are going to forget by next week," he said softly. "They always do." She let out a broken sound. "I lied, Henry. I built a whole house with fake bricks and I invited people." He nodded. "Houses fall. People don't have to." The bottle of water looked like a simple kind of mercy. She drank. The next morning began without asking her permission. Her name trended on campus group chats. A short clip of her frozen on stage circled lazily, like a predator that wasn't even hungry. Anita held her. Kemi cried with her, and then both had to go to class. Sade didn't want to go anywhere, but sitting still hurt too. She went to the old reading room. Henry was there, writing in a thin notebook with a pencil. He looked up and offered a second chair with a small tilt of his head. She sat, emptied out. I wanted to be seen, she said finally. I was tired of this kind of invincible that makes your skin feel like glass. Henry listened. I know, he said. I grew up surrounded by expensive noise. Sometimes I wanted to be invincible, not because I was ashamed, but because everyone looked at the money before they looked at me. Sade blinked. Your car, she said. He smiled a little. My father's. He owns some businesses. He did not say rich. He did not say wealthy. He said it the way people speak of rain, something that comes whether you deserve it or not. So you are, she asked. He shrugged. Henry. He slid a small phone across the table. It was an old model, a little scratched, but real. Borrow it, he said. No strings. Use it until you can get your own. She stared at it like it might bite. Why? Because information is oxygen here, and because I don't want your first true thing to be a quiet suffering. Humiliation made Sade small and sharp. She walked with her eyes forward and her shoulders like two clenched fists. Some people pointed. Some people smiled with their teeth alone. But some people, surprisingly many, looked at her with soft eyes. A girl from her public speaking class sat beside her after lecture and whispered, My shoes are second-hand too. A boy in the cafeteria told her he shared a room with three cousins and slept by the window so the moon could feel like space. The world was not divided into rich and poor. It was divided into those who hid and those who told the truth. Sade started telling it when Bianca cornered her near the fountain, lips tight and eyes hard. Sade stood still. You should have told me, Bianca snapped. We could have avoided this mess. Sade met her gaze. I told you my battery was low. That was a lie. I am done with that. Bianca's anger flickered. Do you think honesty is a brand? She asked. Good luck monetizing it. She walked away with a spin that looked expensive. Sade's chest ached, but not from fear. It was a pain like new muscle. Henry kept his promises soft. He introduced Sade to the campus community center, where students could volunteer. One Saturday, they packed food for street children and wrote cheerful notes on brown paper bags. Eat well, you matter. Sade watched a small boy choose a bag and grin with all the teeth he had. She felt something shift inside, like a door opening in a house she thought was locked. Afterwards, Henry took her to a modest clinic where he volunteered to read to patients waiting for test results. He made his voice gentle, like warm water. Why do you do this? Sade asked as they walked out into a sky that had forgiven the day. Because my father's money built tall buildings, he said, and I want to build low bridges. Sade didn't know what to say. The words moved into her and took seats. Back on campus, she opened her social media page and typed, I lied because I was afraid of being small. I am deleting the pretend life. If you still want to follow, I'll be here. Small but real. Then she pressed post and waited for the sound of falling glass that never came. Some followers left, some stayed. A few wrote, Thank you. News faded, as Henry predicted. Exam finished, as they always do during break. Sade went home to her aunt's lilac room. She cooked sweet beans with onions and told stories that didn't need to be filtered. Her mother called her from the village and said, My child, I hear many things about city life, but only one thing matters you. Sade held the phone and let out a quiet cry. When she returned to campus, the world had shifted a little, as worlds do when you walk through them awake. She found Henry at the jacaranda tree with the same thin book, as if time had left a bookmark there. I read it, she said, while holding up the book. He smiled, and she sat down beside him. Peace is not a place, she said. It's a practice. He nodded, happy like a small flame. So, what will you practice? Telling the truth, she said, and learning, and helping where I can. He looked at her as if she had just arrived properly. One afternoon, the Students' Union posted about a panel called Worth in a World of Shine. They wanted two speakers, one with a story of starting again and one with a story of having more than enough but choosing less. Sade sent an email before fear could pull her sleeves. She wrote, I built a fake life. It fell. I am learning how to stand. Henry sent one too. I have much. I am learning how to carry it in a way that doesn't crush others. The coordinator replied to both in the same hour. You are in. The panel was set for Friday. Bianca also posted a flyer for her own event the same night. A fashion pop-up with influencers and a new sign that said only the best. The campus split into two lines, one towards glitter, one towards grace. Sade felt a tremor of old fear. What if nobody came? Henry squeezed her shoulder. If five people come, we will talk to five souls. The hall half filled, then surprised everyone by overflowing. The lights were soft, the chairs, the air respectful. The moderator asked Sade to go first. She stood at the podium with her hands open. I wanted you to love me, she began, voice steady. So I gave you a version you could love quickly. It looked perfect. It was empty. When it broke, I wanted to disappear. But a friend sat with me, and strangers told me their real stories. I learned that worth is not a picture, it is a practice. It is the way you treat people when nobody is filming. She spoke about the plastic iPhone without shame. Laughter rose, warm this time, and then quieted to listen. Then Henry spoke. He didn't say wealthy. He said, sometimes the loudest thing in a room is the money. It makes you deaf to the small voices. I am learning to listen. He told them about the food bags and the clinic and the bridges he hopes to build. Questions followed like curious birds. A girl asked Sade, how do you start again? Sade answered, you start small. You start today. While they spoke, Bianca's event sparkled on the other side of campus. It would have been a victory night, but the power went out. The backup generator coughed, and the misunderstanding with the venue manager turned into a noisy argument. Even the neon sign gave up. Bianca ended the night angry and bright with tears. She scrolled through her feed and saw pictures from the panel. A crowded room, a boy in a plain shirt, a girl with open hands, and comments that glowed like candles. Something inside her tilted, then cracked. Monday, she found Sade by the fountain. I was unkind, she said, the words slow and expensive. I am sorry. Sade studied her face. Thank you. Bianca looked at the water. Would you help me do a different kind of event next month? Something that gives. Sade thought of small boys choosing brown paper bags with joy. She thought of bridges. Yes, she said, let's try. The next week tasted like work and fresh bread. Sade took a campus job at the bursary's office, counting fees and greeting anxious students with a smile that didn't lie. She stopped borrowing clothes and started wearing what fit her body and her budget. On her page, she posted notes from the community center, small victories from tutoring sessions, cheap recipes that tasted like care. People followed, not because the pictures glowed, but because the word felt like a hand. Henry kept showing up in small ways, a ride on rainy days, extra notebooks when hers ran out, space when she needed silence. He never tried to rescue her. He walked beside her until she recognized her own feet. One evening, the jacaranda flowers felt like soft purple rain, and they both stood under it, laughing like children who had forgiven the day. You know, Shadi said, the plastic phone taught me something. Henry raised an eyebrow. What's that? A shell is shiny only until you ask it to call someone. At the end of the semester, the university held an award night for service and leadership. Nobody saw Sade's name until it appeared on the screen. Community Bridge Award for turning a fall into a footpath. Applause lifted like a soft wind. Sade walked to the stage with knees that remembered humiliation and feet that remembered mercy. The vice chancellor handed her a plaque that felt heavier than glass and lighter than lies. She thanked the community center, her roommates, her aunt in the lilac room, and the boy who built bridges instead of pedestals. After the ceremony, Bianca hugged her briefly, carefully, as if hugging a new truth. We have that giving event next month, Bianca said. We will need flyers. Sade smiled, black and white, simple. The date, large enough for the eyes that are tired. Henry found her by the door. He didn't say congratulations, he said, proud of you. The way some people say, welcome home. Sade didn't buy a new phone that month. She saved, she learned, she waited. One Saturday, she took the old bus to a small market, found a used phone in good condition, and paid for it with money earned from hours that had names. She thanked Henry and returned the older phone, placing it in his hands like returning a borrowed voice. Thank you, she said, for oxygen. He chuckled. Anytime. They walked to the cafe where they had first been almost exposed and ordered the cheapest tea. This time, when Sade took a picture, it was for memory, not for display. Two cups, two people, one practice. She posted it with a caption that didn't glitter. Learning tastes like tea. Hearts bloomed again. Fewer, but deeper. In the memory of that night on stage, where the plastic iPhone broke and the light bled out, Sade found a quiet gratitude. If the shell had not cracked, the seed would never have seen light. She visited the rooftop cafe again, alone, and ordered water. The sky was kind. She looked at the table where the boy had spread her phone screen, and she didn't feel anger. She felt relief. Lies are heavy in the hand. Truth is heavy in the heart, but it strengthens you. A message pinged her aunt. I saw your award on Facebook. I prayed for you. Keep working. Shade typed back, yes, auntie, step by step. She closed her eyes and let the city breathe around her. It was still loud, but somewhere in it, a quiet voice lesson hummed like a low, good song. Your true worth is not a costume. It is your kindness when nobody claps. It is your courage when nobody watches. It is your work when nobody counts. When exam results came, they arrived with the usual mix of signs and shouts. Shade passed everything, some with excellence, some with mercy. She took the thin book Henry first gave her and placed it on her desk where new books would one day stand. A short guide to long peace. Under it, she slid a note she'd written to herself on a bad night. Start small, start today. She didn't know what the next semester would demand, but she knew what she would bring. Honest words, steady hands, and shoes that walk towards people instead of platforms. Outside her window, the jacaranda tree changed its mind again and dropped another rain of violent petals. Shadi laughed and held out her palm. She didn't need the city to be softer. She needed to be stronger in the soft ways that last. On the first day of the new semester, freshmen arrived with wide eyes and luggage like hope. Shade volunteered to guide them to hostels and lecture halls. A girl in a faded dress walked beside her, clutching a cheap bag and a phone with a cracked corner. Shade slowed her pace to match the girl's. What's your name? She asked. Dami, the girl whispered. I am scared. Shade smiled, the kind that comes from places deeper than lips. Me too, she said. Let's be scared together. Here is a map. Here is the library. Here is the old reading room if your head gets noisy. And if you ever need granuts, there is a boy under the jacaranda who always carries some. Dami's shoulders relaxed. Thank you. Shade waved at the girl, walked away, and then turned towards the tree. Henry sat there, predictable as morning. She dropped two granite packs on the bench. For the bridge builder, she said. He laughed, warm and low. For the house restorer, he replied. Near the end of the year, Bianca's giving event lit the student center with a different kind of shine. No neon, no smoke, just tables stacked with textbooks for sharing, second-hand clothes arranged by size, not by brand, and a wall where people could write anonymous needs and anonymous help. Sade stood at the entrance with a cardboard sign. No performance, only people. Students came in shy and left surprised by how good simplicity could feel. Music played, low and kind. Henry organized a corner for free tutoring. Olivia from the debates team managed a booth on building confidence and without costume. Bianca moved through the room in a plain white tee and jeans, her hair tied back, her laugh suddenly less golden and more humane. At the end of this night, they counted leftover books and opened the donation box to find small bills folded like prayers. Shade looked around and felt a fulfillment that didn't need to be posted to be real. She still posted, but her captions were simple. When the light is right, people glow. Graduation was still a year away, but endings were practicing in small ways. Shade walked past the rooftop cafe and saw a new sign. No photos without purchase. She smiled. Boundaries were good. She walked past Platinum Lounge, where the blue lights still tried to teach chicks how to be perfect. She touched a place in her memory where she had run out, and it no longer hurt. It hummed. In the old reading room, someone had placed a small potted plant on the window sill, and it leaned towards the light like a child learning to walk. Shade and Henry studied there in long stretches of purposeful quiet. Sometimes he fell asleep over his notes, pencil in hand, and she would nudge him awake with a grin. Sometimes she cried quietly over a problem set that refused to yield, and he would slide a tissue across the desk without a word. They learned each other's silences and respected them like sacred spaces. One evening, it rained the way the city sometimes cries, heavy, sudden, honest. Everyone ran, shoes slapping, hair surrendering. Shade and Henry ducked under the jacaranda tree and laughed as water turned the ground into a mirror. I used to hate rain, Shade said, breathless. It ruined pictures. Henry tilted his face to the sky. It makes everything true again. She looked at him, at its eyes that didn't need to be told stories, or to no one when they saw it. Henry, she said, a little shy, a little brave, thank you for not looking away when I was messy. He met her gaze with that same steady warmth. Thank you for inviting me into the mess. In the rain, their hands found each other, not dramatic, not rushed, just right. The city kept crying, and for once, nobody tried to stop it. The year rolled forward and almost tripped over itself, the way years do when you are paying attention. Sade helped Dami apply for a scholarship and cheered when the email arrived with a yes. She visited the clinic with Henry and read aloud to a woman with tired eyes until the woman smiled and said, you sound like home. She visited her aunt and painted the lilac wall anew, brighter, fresher. At night, she sometimes took out the plastic iPhone from the bottom of her drawer, not to use, but to remember. She held it like a relic from a life that taught her what she needed to learn the hard way. Then she put it back and slept well. People still posted perfect squares. They still wore shoes that shone. They still brought loud laughter to soft rooms. But Sade no longer wanted to compete with a parade she didn't enjoy. She had become a quiet parade of one. Honest, working, and growing. Henry was not her rescue, he was her friend, then her partner in small revolutions of kindness. When people asked, how did you change? She said, I stopped performing pain and pleasure. I started practicing them. When they asked, where is your worth now? She smiled, small and true. Not in my phone, not in my feed, in my feet, in where they go. And somewhere between the jacaranda and the old reading room, between the lilac wall and the clinic waiting area, between the rain that made everything true and the sun that forgave everything bold, Shade learns the secret Henry has been living the whole time. True worth is not loud, but it echoes. It is not quick, but it lasts. It's not borrowed, but it's shared. And when you finally hold it, you don't hold it up, you hold it out. And this is the end of today's story. But remember, every folktale carries a hidden wisdom, a seed of truth planted deep within our hearts. If this story touched you, made you laugh, or opened your eyes, then don't let it stop here. There are many more tales waiting to be told, full of mystery, laughter, lesson, and suspense from the heart of Africa. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you'll never miss the next story. And if you enjoyed this one, drop a comment below. Share your thoughts, your laughter, or the lesson you are taking with you today. Until we meet again in the next story, stay curious, stay inspired, and let the spirit of our stories keep your heart alive. Subscribe now and become part of this growing family of storytellers. Thank you.